The operating room was a crucible of bright lights and hushed urgency when Dr. Grace Buckingham snapped into life-or-death focus. Monitors beeped insistently at her back, sterile trays glinted under the glare, and the steady hiss of anesthesia promised Liam Spencer's passage from unconsciousness into the uncertain threshold of survival. She had navigated emergencies before, gunshot wounds, ruptured arteries, random accidents, but never one this personal. Liam, daughter Kelly's father, the cornerstone of a family that had known more upheaval than most, was lying draped in blue, his chest opened, heart exposed. Grace's scalpel tremored for a heartbeat before she steadied herself. The tumor she had excised was harmless, a mere distraction, a red herring in a case destined to shock them all. She reached for the blood supply, the lifeline that would stabilize him. But the bag was wrong. At first it registered only as a slight discoloration, an odd tint that didn't match the others stacked in the cooler. Grace blinked. She held the bag up to the light, her mind racing through possibilities: expired, mislabeled, wrong donor type. Circulation, slow drip, she murmured, signaling her team, but every fiber of her being sounded an alarm. She whispered the blood type aloud. "We've got B negative here." I ordered A positive. A ripple passed through the scrub nurses. The perfusionist's hand hovered over the tubing. One moment more, and that poison mixture would flood into Liam's veins. Grace lunged, yanking the line free, her glove-sheathed fingers slick with saline. "Stop," she hissed. By the time the monitors registered the abrupt change in flow, Liam's blood pressure plummeted. The monitors went wild, twin alarms shrieking as electrolytes crashed, organs rattled like cracked glass. Grace barked orders. "Epinephrine, stat. Start CPR." Her voice cut through the storm of panic, anchoring chaos to purpose. She knelt beside the table, fingers dancing on Liam's sternum, chest compressions that echoed the rapid beat of crisis. Outside the sterile walls, the corridor was a different war zone. Bill Spencer, Liam's stepfather and business titan, barred the double doors with shoulders squared, cufflinks gleaming. He had been 20 paces away when Grace first called for blood, a mere witness to routine. Now, every tick of the clock felt like an eternity. His voice, taut with rage and fear, reverberated through the frame of the door. "Who did this? Who dared to endanger my family?" And then the truth crashed down on Grace like a rogue wave. It wasn't an accident. The blood had been swapped deliberately, drawn from a pack of the wrong type and placed in Liam's line. Someone in the room, under her very nose, had sabotaged the rescue that was her entire reason for being there. She remembered the anesthesiologist stepping back for a moment, a quick exchange with someone outside the scrub area. The technician's badge glinted in her periphery, too bright, too new. The realization made her blood run cold. It was him, she told herself. He was acting off. But why? And who pulled his strings? The final compression felt endless. Grace's lungs burned as she pumped Liam's chest, her sterile gown damp against her skin. At her side, a nurse whispered, "Call Dr. Finnegan. Get the crash cart." Grace's nod was automatic. She sketched outlines of adrenaline, bicarbonate, calcium, the arsenal she needed to reverse anaphylactic collapse. One by one the interventions took hold, the rhythm on the EKG flattened, then flickered back. A slow, irregular blip, life returning in a trembling pulse. Grace exhaled, sweat stinging her eyes, and for a moment the world was reduced to that single heartbeat. When Liam's vitals stabilized enough to risk closing him up, Grace scrubbed out and met Bill's furious gaze in the hallway. He stood there, arms crossed, jaw clenched. His tailored suit did nothing to soften the stark lines of a man bereft of control. "Who did this?" he demanded. Grace's voice was low, tight with dread. It wasn't human error. She paused, fighting for composure. It was deliberate. Bill's eyes went ice cold. In seconds, his decision was made. "Then we burn down this hospital until we find out who's responsible." Inside a staff lounge down the corridor, the anesthesiologist, Dr. Marcus Harlow, leaned back against a counter. His face was pale, sweat beading at his hairline. He had contaminated the blood bag at the behest of someone he could neither name nor defy, a shadowy operative whose threats had been more than enough to keep him compliant. In his trembling hand he grasped a folded piece of paper, edges crumpled. A thin threat and signed, promising ruin if he refused. He crumpled it tighter, as if squeezing out guilt. "I didn't want this," he muttered. Grace found him there, eyes blazing, heart still pounding. She stood framed in the doorway, light pooling around her silhouette like a halo of accusation. Marcus sprang upright. Dr. Buckingham, I didn't know what else to do." Her glove snapped against his arm as she grabbed him, voice low but fierce. "Who told you? Who paid you? Who is behind this?" Marcus's shoulders slumped. He shook his head as if to dislodge a dream. "I was told to follow orders." "I can't," Grace's stare cut through his excuses. "People almost died tonight." "You think orders justify that?" He opened his mouth, but no words came. Bill Spencer arrived then, storming in, beads of rain from a sudden downpour glistening on his shoulders. He had roared down the corridor, summoned the head of security, and mobilized every resource at his disposal. He looked at Marcus, then back to Grace. "You found him," he said steely. Grace nodded. "He did it." Bill's hand curled into a fist. "I want answers. Now." And so the investigation began in earnest. Bill dispatched loyal operatives to scour security footage, trace phone records, and interrogate staff. Grace stayed at Liam's bedside, monitoring every fluctuation, every sign of a relapse. In the hush of the ICU, she caught sight of Marcus through the glass, escorted by uniformed officers. His face was drawn, haunted, as though the weight of his betrayal had aged him decades in mere hours. He passed Grace, eyes meeting hers in a moment of silent plea. She turned away, focusing on the monitors. Mercy and judgment warred inside her. By dawn, Bill returned to Grace, exhaustion etching his features. "They're onto someone, an underling in the blood bank. He claims he didn't know what the switch was for." Grace exhaled. "The mastermind remains hidden." He nodded. "We'll find them." His voice, though weary, carried the promise of a man accustomed to victory. In the days that followed, whispers spread through the hospital like wildfire. Staff exchanged nervous glances. Families hovering at bedsides glanced at one another with suspicion. Grace's once steadfast faith in the sanctity of the ore had been shaken. Every vial, every tray, every masked face held the potential for treachery. Yet she pressed on, closing Liam with steady hands when the time came, sealing him inside his own flesh to continue the fight for life. When Liam finally opened his eyes, confusion gave way to relief as he recognized Grace. She offered him a tired, triumphant smile. "You're going to be okay," she whispered. He tried to speak, voice cracked. "Thank you," he managed. Outside the glass, Bill stood, arms folded, a guardian lion keeping watch. Grace caught his eye and offered a slight nod. He lifted one gloved hand in acknowledgement, a silent pact forged in crisis. The hospital returned to a tense calm. Investigations churned onward. The assassin's contractor remained elusive. Bill's resources scraped every shadow of the city, determined to root out the conspiracy. Grace returned to her practice, forever changed, her trust harder earned. In the stillness of the corridor, she paused beside the bulletin board where the blood bank's protocols were posted, a silent vow burning in her chest. Never again. And so the episode closed with two survivors, Liam's fragile body mending under Grace's vigilant care, and Bill's determination sharpening into something lethal. The hospital corridors retained the ghost of betrayal, a reminder that even in the sacred halls of healing, darkness could strike without warning. Grace Buckingham, once a healer unchallenged, now stood vigilant, ready for the next storm. And somewhere in the city's underbelly, the mastermind observed, unaware that their web was already cracking under the relentless pressure of Bill Spencer's fury and Grace's unwavering resolve. The battlefield had shifted from the operating room to a war of wills, and neither side would relent until the final truth was bared. In the tangled world of the bold and the beautiful, nothing is ever as straightforward as it seems, and recent whispers about Luna Nozawa's fate have sent shockwaves through the fan community, stirring up theories more dramatic than any on-screen twist. Viewers were aghast when the bright young designer was pronounced dead after a harrowing surgery gone wrong, yet mere days later, Lisa Yamada, the actress behind Luna, was spotted on the B/B lot on June 30th, her cheerful presence contradicting the supposed finality of Luna's fall. Then came the bombshell leaked by Catherine Kelly Lang on Instagram. Luna's name appears in the cast list for an episode slated to air on September 8th, a fact so reckless in its revelation that it practically begs us to demand answers. Could all of this be smoke and mirrors, a masterstroke of misdirection? Or is there something more sinister at work, something that reaches back into Luna's past and ties her fate to secrets even she didn't know she possessed? Imagine, if you will, that Luna Nozawa is not truly one soul but two. In the world of soap operas, especially one that has walked the line between outrageous scandal and heartfelt drama for decades, a twin trope is nothing if not a tried-and-true vehicle for chaos. Luna arrives in Los Angeles an angelic ingenue, her shy smile hiding depths of sorrow, her tentative romance with R.J. Forrester painting her as a gentle spirit in need of protection. But what if the Luna who died on that operating table was not the pink-cheeked dreamer we believed her to be? What if she had a twin sister, a shadowed counterpart, Poppy Nozawa, whose existence has been kept secret, a child given up long ago in some quiet cobwebbed adoption decree, a sister whose sorrow and jealousy festered in anonymity until it finally erupted into deadly consequences? The very name Poppy suggests a vibrant bloom, one that could easily displace the gentle Luna in any scene, and the possibility that Luna's mother bore twins. And that Poppy was surrendered to an orphanage or raised in isolation, sets the stage for a revelation destined to shatter the Spencer-Logan-Buckingham orbit. And then there's Rana, a new name circulating among script pages and insider chatter, touted as the co-star of the fateful episode. Rana and Luna. The names rhyme, they dance on the same syllables, they suggest twinship even before the reveal. Could Rana be the one we saw on that surgery gurney, whimpering in artificial sedation as Dr. Buckingham and her team fought to save a life that might not have been Luna's at all? Picture the drama. Grace Buckingham, her reputation unblemished until now, scrubbing through tear-blurred vision, only to discover that the blood bag she nearly infused into her patient was not the innocent error of an overwhelmed hospital, but the calculated act of Poppy or Rana. Determined to erase her sister's identity, to seize Luna's place in every conversation, in every scene, in every heart still broken by her supposed death. Such a twist would eclipse even the storied death of Finn, whose staged exit after a shooting and clandestine rescue by Lee Finnegan left fans gasping. Here, too, we might see a dark benefactor. Someone who threatened a young anesthesiologist into swapping blood types, ensuring a conviction of homicide against an innocent, only to reveal later that the victim was an impostor. The implications are staggering. If Luna's demise was orchestrated to send shock and awe through Los Angeles' elite, then her true survival hinges on Poppy's or Rana's confession, on the discovery of twin DNA evidence, perhaps hidden in a childhood scrapbook or locked in an adoption file stolen from a long-forgotten agency. Perhaps someone on the hospital staff, maybe that guilt-ridden anesthesiologist, Marcus Harlow, has held onto a stack of unsigned orders, cryptic threats that forced his hand. When Grace uncovered the blood switch, she looked into the sharply lit faces of her surgical team and realized, with a gut punch of betrayal, that this was no accident. Bill Spencer's vow to burn down the hospital in search of the saboteur is only the beginning. Soon he will spearhead a citywide manhunt for evidence that points to a child handed off decades ago, paperwork shredded and memory suppressed, a life rerouted. Yet there is a third dimension to the story, a final escape hatch through which Luna might return not as a ghost, but as a triumphant heroine. Suppose that the woman we knew as Luna, the one who stumbled through fashion shows and tender trysts, was not the one who arrived at Cedars-Sinai for that fateful operation. Instead, imagine that Poppy or Rana had slipped into Luna's life long ago, impersonating her so flawlessly that even Luna didn't recognize the theft of her own identity. This evil twin scenario would explain not only the violent manipulations, kidnapping, deceit, even suggested murders, but also why Luna at times seemed out of character, moody, reckless, her actions sometimes more consistent with someone hardened by resentment than someone newly arrived from Japan chasing a design career. Fans have already noted instances when Luna's humor turned acidic, her decisions illogical. What if those moments were glimpses of the true twin, the one who had lived a darker life before stepping into Luna's path? And let us not forget the storyline parallels. Steffi Forrester once mistook a young woman named Sugar, Janet Weber, for Sheila, a mistaken identity plot that culminated in cat-and-mouse games and shocking confessions. The creative team behind V/and B knows exactly how to leverage our expectations, how to lull us with the familiar before delivering a sucker punch. In this new arc, Rana could appear in flashbacks. An abandoned infant we glimpse in black and white frames, her cry echoing as a nurse lays her in a basket beside a cot labeled Poppy. As a teenager, Rana might have stumbled upon her adoption papers and traced Luna's career via Instagram and tabloids, her sense of injustice swelling into murderous ambition. The night of the surgery, she would slip into the prep room under a stolen badge, guided by the threat she held over Harlow, inject the wrong blood, and your family pays. The rest is near tragedy, halted only by Grace's split-second awareness and the heroic pulse of CPR. But if Luna lives, if she emerges from this twisted masquerade, it will require a public unmasking, a dramatic scene on the hospital steps or the Forrester mansion lawn, where DNA results confirm twinship and Bill Spencer, ever the master strategist, announces to the gathered press that the truth is more astonishing than any fiction. Luna will step forward, vulnerable yet resolute, her reunion with Finn a long-awaited moment of redemption that echoes through the corridors of healing and the catwalks of fashion alike. Poppy or Rana will face justice, perhaps imprisoned in an asylum, her cries of regret drowned out by the roars of relief from fans who dared to hope their heroine was not gone forever. And Grace Buckingham, whose steady hands nearly stitched together a life that was never truly at risk, will stand vindicated, her faith in medicine and in the human heart restored. In the end, the bold and the beautiful universe thrives on these labyrinthine plots, on characters reborn from the ashes of their supposed deaths, and on revelations that braid betrayal with forgiveness. Whether Luna's return comes as a spectral whisper, a legal exhibition of DNA, or a tearful embrace with her twin, one thing is certain, the story will hold nothing back. So prepare yourselves for an emotional roller coaster that will sweep from the Or to the runway, from hushed hospital halls to the glittering facade of Forrester Creations, where every shadow hides a secret and every heartbeat counts. The question is no longer whether Luna will live, but how long we can bear to wait for the next stunning twist.